Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into a fascinating story from the Quran. Now on the surface, it seems like it's all about a really strange command. But if you look a little deeper, it's actually this incredible parable about faith, obedience, and that tricky, slippery slope of doubt. So yeah, let's just jump right in.
So the story throws us right into what feels like a classic whodunit, you know? You've got a murder, a community where everyone's blaming each other, and absolutely no clear suspect. And the divine clue that's supposed to crack the case? A cow. Right away, you're thinking, just like in any good mystery, wait, what's the connection? How does a cow solve a murder?
Now, where does this story come from? Well, it's right from the Quran itself. Specifically, we're looking at the second chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah, which is actually the longest one in the whole book. And get this, the chapter is named the heifer, or the cow, precisely because of this story we're about to get into, which you can find in verses 67 through 74.
Okay, so that brings us to part 1, a mysterious command. Picture this. The prophet Moses comes to his people with an instruction from God. It's direct, totally out of the blue, and, to be honest, they think it's just completely bizarre.
And their reaction? It's instant, and it says so much. They don't ask how or why. Nope, they go straight to an accusation. Are you making fun of us? So you see, they're not just questioning the logic here, they're actually questioning the prophet's integrity. But Moses, he shuts that down fast. He makes it clear, this is no joke. This is a message from God.
And boom, right there, the main conflict of the story is set. This whole thing isn't really just about a task, it's a test. It's a choice between simple, trusting obedience, even when you don't get it, and going down the path of doubt. And honestly, their first reaction kind of tells you everything you need to know about which path they're leaning towards.
So what happens next? Well, that leads us right into the next phase of their resistance, which I'm calling the endless questions. Instead of just, doing what they were told, they start stalling. They just bury this simple, straightforward command under a mountain of questions.
The first question seems innocent enough on the surface, right? They just ask for a basic description. But you have to wonder, is this a genuine request for clarity, or is it the start of a pattern of just trying to avoid the whole thing?
And the answer they get back? Super simple, very direct. Find a heifer that's not too old and not too young, somewhere in the middle. But pay attention to how Moses wraps it up. He says, so do what you are commanded. He's basically saying, that's all the info you need. Stop asking questions and just do it. I mean, the path forward couldn't be any clearer.
What's really fascinating here is that this little back and forth kind of reveals their true motive. Think about it. A simple command to find a heifer, any heifer, that's pretty easy. But by asking for specifics, they've already started making the job harder for themselves. This is really the first step in a cycle of procrastination, and it's all rooted in weak faith. But do they listen? Nope. They completely ignore the instruction to just get on with it. Instead of going to find a cow, they come right back with another question, another delay tactic. This time it's, okay, but what color should it be? So, the answer they get is incredibly specific. Not just any yellow, but a brilliant, vibrant yellow. The kind of color that's really striking and beautiful to look at. Suddenly, we're not talking about just any old cow anymore, are we? And this is where you see the consequences of their actions so clearly. With every single question they ask, just to delay things, the requirements get more and more specific. The number of cows that could possibly fit the description is getting smaller and smaller. They are literally making this whole thing so much harder on themselves.
You'd think that would be it, right? But no. They come back a third time. This time their excuse is that all the heifers look alike and it's too confusing. So they ask for yet another detail. What's its condition? What kind of work has it done?
And the final answer they get is the most detailed one yet. The heifer can't have a single blemish on her, and she must have never been used for farm labor, like plowing a field or watering crops. A totally pure, flawless animal. It's only then that they say, now you've brought the truth. But the Quran adds this really crucial detail at the end. So they slaughtered her, but they could hardly do it. You can just feel their reluctance right up to the very last second.
I mean, this is really the peak of their resistance. Their endless questions turned what should have been a simple act of faith into this massive, difficult quest for a one-of-a-kind, perfect animal. And that little note in the Quran that they almost didn't do it at all, that just highlights how deep their unwillingness really was.
So after all that back and forth, they finally find this super specific animal and they sacrifice it. And it's only after they've gone through with it, reluctantly of course, that the real reason for this whole bizarre command is finally revealed. The mystery is about to be solved.
So here's the backstory we were missing all along. See, a man had been murdered and the whole community was in an uproar, pointing fingers, blaming each other, trying to cover up the truth. This command wasn't random at all, it was the direct response to this hidden crime.
And then comes the big moment, the climax of the story. They're told to take a part of the sacrificed heifer and strike the dead man with it. And he comes back to life. Just like that. This moment goes way beyond just solving a murder mystery. It's a raw, powerful demonstration of God's absolute power over life and death.
And suddenly it all clicks into place, doesn't it? The weird command, the whole ordeal with the sacrifice, it was all building up to this miracle. It was a way to reveal a hidden truth, expose the killer, and give them an undeniable sign of divine power, all while asking them to just stop and think, to use their reason.
Now you'd think a miracle like that, seeing someone brought back from the dead, would inspire some serious awe and deep faith, right? But the story takes one last, really sobering turn, and it delivers what is maybe its most powerful warning.
This next part is wow. It's a truly stunning verse. Because after witnessing something so incredible, their hearts didn't soften. In fact, the Quran says the exact opposite happened. Their hearts became hardened. They became like stones or even harder.
And that comparison is just so powerful. The Quran makes this point that even lifeless rocks can show a kind of, well, life. Rivers can burst from them, they can split open with water, some even fall down out of fear of God. And yet the hearts of these people, after seeing one of the most incredible signs you could possibly imagine, stayed completely unmoved, totally resistant.
So, when you boil it all down, what are we left with? A few really powerful takeaways. First, that true faith often just means simple, trusting obedience, especially when we don't have all the answers. Second, that asking endless questions isn't always about finding the truth. Sometimes it's just a way to hide our doubt. And maybe the most chilling lesson of all is that even the most amazing miracle can't get through to a heart that's already decided to shut itself down.
And that leaves us with a pretty challenging final thought to chew on. This story seems to suggest that divine signs aren't some kind of magic spell that forces you to believe. They're more like an invitation. They give you a choice. So the question it really leaves for us is this. When we're faced with a truth that's hard to swallow, does it soften our hearts and open our minds, or does it just make them harden even more? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.